had a technical glitch. Just as you would say if you were in live television, it'd be like, well, we're on live television.
There we go. It's all good. It's all good.
So good morning, everybody. I want to welcome you to my Coffee with Kate show for the month of May. I have a very special guest with me today, my friend, colleague, and even client now. Happy to call you a client, Dr. Elizabeth Rosner, also better known as Dr. Roz. So thank you for being on my show today.
Thank you.
Right over to the side. Cheers.
Love it. Cheers, sister. Cheers.
I actually don't have coffee with me this morning. I have water.
I actually have kombucha because I thought maybe she's going to ask me what I put in it, but I put in kombucha. My treat for the day.
I don't always ask. People usually volunteer what they want to say. So we are going to be talking about nonviolent communication today. And given what just happened in our world in Texas yesterday, this is going to be a very timely and perhaps sobering conversation today. Before we get to that, I would like to, Dr. Roz, you do one thing, and that's about nonviolence communication and nonviolent communication. And you have two distribution methods. So I would love you to just sort of briefly describe for our listeners who are all kind of piling in right now, what it is that you do.
Thanks so much, Kate. Honestly, I am so deeply honored that you've asked me to be a part of this. And then with everything that's happened over the last few weeks, and particularly yesterday, it is a timely conversation to talk about nonviolence. And so I am a nonviolence strategist, and that shows up in a couple of different ways. Number one, I teach students how to graduate fully debt-free. And so if you can imagine walking into your profession, not being encumbered by the average student loan debt of $75,000 and how that changes the trajectory of your life. And so that's a form of nonviolence. But the other place it shows up is I'm a certified trainer for the Martin Luther King Center. I'm also the content
in Atlanta.
In Atlanta, yes. And I'm also the content learning project manager for the King Center. So
what does that mean? What does that part mean when you say the content learning part?
So I contract with them as a nonviolent strategist, and I have several different things under my purview. One is we just launched in January a digital platform, and it was a $13 million project where we took the original curriculum, really written and undergirded by Coretta Scott King and her team that has evolved through the years, and made it digital. And one of the learners just said to me, and he's a higher ed professional. I just spoke with him actually this morning. He said, Elizabeth, that platform is so engaging, like surprisingly engaging. I was like, thank you so much. So I was the project manager for that. I also, when folks want training for their private groups at the King Center, then I work with them to make that happen. So like we just did a training last week for an international corporation that has 40,000 employees. Obviously not all 40,000 were, on with us last week, but that's the beauty of nonviolence is you teach folks and then it becomes part of the culture. And then, it's not only impacting the corporate culture, but every employee that learns it, they take it home and et cetera. So my global vision as a nonviolent strategist is 7.8 billion nonviolent practitioners around the globe.
Which is our entire population of the planet.
Yes.
Okay. Well, thank you for explaining that. So I want to say just good morning to Helen and Marie Teme. Marie, actually, this is Marie.
Hi, Marie.
She's a member of our chapter, our eWomen Network chapter here in Vermont, and she won the eWomen Network National Emerging Leader Award last year.
Yeah.
I need to connect the two of you.
Yes, I would love it. Oh, Kathy, hi.
Kathy's here too. Yes. So I'm sure there's going to be more people coming in. Great. All right. So I had a plan for our conversation today, and I think we can still touch on some of it. But given what happened in Texas yesterday with that school massacre, which is what it was, I've been in and out of tears. I couldn't sleep last night. I keep thinking about parents and children that were there. And you and I were meeting earlier, and I do think that this is a conversation that we need need to have this morning. And Vivian just popped in too. So hello, Vivian.
Good morning, Sister Vivian. Good to see you. Yeah, you're exactly right.
So we're going to just have a conversation, and
Yeah.
we're not really sure where it's going to go. We do not want to get political. So we're just going to talk about this. So Dr. Roz, kind of explain, you talked before we got on, you talked about how you have 15, you would collect babies and you have 15 who call you mama. Start with that if you would.
Yeah. So, what when we talk about in nonviolence, we talk about how the way you perpetuate violence against someone else is that you have to first dehumanize them. And when we hear numbers, if you're not in Texas or Uvalde, Texas right now, then those are numbers. But it also, I really urge people to start thinking about that in personal terms. For me, yes, I have, 15, 20, I don't know how many call me mama. And one of them was murdered here in Atlanta on Mother's Day.
Oh.
And so his mother lost him on Mother's Day. And the ripple effect of that loss in my life, the understanding that that we're all interconnected, that we're all brothers and sisters.
Absolutely.
And so we walked through that with that family, and obviously you're still walking through that. It literally just happened on Mother's Day. And then on the heels of that was Buffalo.
Mm-hmm.
So Jory was my baby. So Jory was hanging out in an apartment with 5 other friends. All 6 of them were shot. 3 of them died at the scene, and 3 were taken to the hospital. So you can't hang out with friends safely. You can't go to the grocery store safely. And as of yesterday, you can't be an elementary school student or teacher safely. Right. And so it's walking through that and carrying that. I think many times people want to jump to what's the quickest thing that we can do right this second to eradicate it.
Right.
That's fabulous. But we also need some time to process. We need some time to lament. We need some time to grieve. I've touched up my makeup 3 times for coffee and cake this morning because, and I asked for people to pray for me and over me that I would use this opportunity to point people to nonviolence. Because I knew that in my own strength, it would be an exceptionally difficult conversation to have live with your audience.
Right.
Today, next week, we would be a week past, past where I am with Jory, and then, all of that. But it's today, and that's not an accident.
No, I agree. I mean, I wondered about this last night. I wondered about, there was a part of me thinking, who better to be talking about today than you? And again, I don't know where this is all going to go, but I just want to pause for a minute. Anybody who's listening right now, if you have any comments you'd like to share, please put them in the comments. And or if you have a question about any of this that Dr. Roz can help some, sort of shed some light on. I think you're right. First of all, it hasn't even been, it's been maybe 24 hours since yesterday. Right. And I think about all kinds of things. So when these kinds of things happen, and obviously this hit close to home for you, for Jory, and then of course what happened in Buffalo, which was completely a racist, attack. When people reach out to you, Dr. Roz, how do you help them?
I think that the greatest thing that we can do is, again, pointing them to nonviolence, which is giving them the 6 principles of nonviolence and then the 6 steps to addressing conflict.
Okay. So can you, just for the sake of everybody listening, can you define nonviolence?
So at the King Center, our definition is nonviolence is a love-centered way. That's very important. Love-centered way of thinking, speaking, engaging, and acting. And that leads to personal, and then cultural, and then societal transformation. So It's love-centered in everything that we do. And also it starts with me. Mm-hmm. And so that's why I point people there, because people want to people want to say, I want to go do something. I want to, but really it's, what are we being? At the King Center, we have a series that we're doing now called Be Love. And there's a Be Love pledge, and there's Be Love, t-shirts and water bottles. I love that water bottle, but there's a Be Love pledge. And I read that pledge every single day. My mister and I do our devotionals together every morning at 5:30, and we read it together. And then I have everybody needs an SOP for their office, right? And so in my SOP, it's the very first page. I just went to the website and printed it out. And read through that. And, it starts off.
So that's something like you can print off from the website and sort of stick near where you.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. Yes. And we are developing a PDF that people can just download, but I just went in and copied it from the website. But
is it something you can read from? Is it short? Is it?
Or it's relatively short, and I won't read all of it.
Okay.
But
why don't you just read a piece of it? I think that would be good.
The Be Love pledge. Join us around the world in taking the pledge. I acknowledge 3 things. Number 1, the violence, oppression, inequity, injustice, and hate in our world has to stop. 2, I have a responsibility and role to play. So that's where I'm pointing people to nonviolence, because it starts with me. I have a responsibility and role to play in creating social change for a more just, humane, equitable, and peaceful world. 3, the decision is mine, whether to do nothing in this moment or to have the courage to stand up for justice. And I have made my decision. Starting today, I make a personal choice to be love. And then it goes on.
I just got like goosebumps.
Yeah.
Can you read that last one again?
The decision is mine. It's Elizabeth's choice. It's your choice. Those of you listening, those of you watching the replay, Kate, everyone, it's your choice whether to do nothing in this moment or to have the courage to stand up for justice. And I've made my decision. Starting today, I make a personal choice to be love.
Okay. Wow. Actually, it would be great, Dr. Oz, is if you have, they can get it from the link that's on the screen, right?
Exactly.
But also if you have a PDF, and if you could send that to me, what I'll do is I'll post the PDF on the replay.
Okay. I just have asked for that, and so it's not yet developed.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, the link will take them there for now.
Yeah.
But it's nice. Sometimes people don't want to go to a link and then just print off a PDF or something. So
right, exactly. The other thing we have there is, if you are so inclined, you can click that you have signed the pledge, and then it pops up where you are. And so,
Oh, okay, great.
So you can see internationally where people have signed it. And honestly, Kate, this is not something to blithely say, oh yeah, I agree to that.
Yeah, right.
I mean, you really need to think about it and consider it. And there are people who have really thoughtfully considered it and are not yet able to click that link to say, yes, I pledge to be love. It's not easy. It's not passive. It's, as Dr. King said, love, it's not empty bosh. It's not sentimental and anemic. I mean, it's powerful.
It's powerful.
Right.
Well, so let's go back to the news of the day.
Yeah.
So when people are going through this right now, we're all trying to just grasp this. I mean, I can't even imagine what the people, like the families, are going through right now. Where do we start with trying to even deal with this, cope with this?
I think one thing that I do to just help me process it is obviously, I mean, they're the obvious answers, right? There's there are the students that lost their life. There's the teacher that lost her life. There's, the law enforcement that were there. And then I just sort of extrapolate it out. So there are the parents of the students who lost their life. There are the students who saw their teacher killed, or
that's the part I'm really struggling with.
Exactly. And then there are their parents who are so gleeful to welcome their child home,
right,
when other parents are not. As I understand it, with this in Texas, as what I've read is that parents have had to give DNA samples because they couldn't be identified. And how devastating is that? One family lost, there were two little girls in a classroom, and they were cousins. They were in the same classroom, and both of them were murdered. I think it's disingenuous to say blah 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 passed away. This person passed away. I think it's,
murdered.
Yeah,
there was a woman on CNN last night that was she's from the Department of Homeland Security or something, and she was being interviewed, and she said, "I'm going to use language that you might find tough, but it's like it is what it is." She didn't say that, but these kids were murdered.
Yes,
they are going to be unidentifiable. Yes, because of the nature of how they were killed.
Right.
She said, we're not going to say they passed away. They were murdered.
Right.
And it's interesting. So let's talk about that from the standpoint of your training with nonviolent communication.
I also want to say, before we get to your question, I also want to say where my mind goes. And this is not where most people's mind goes. And I think it's because of my nonviolence training. My mind also goes to, so obviously all the parents of the children that were murdered, the parents and the family members of the teacher, but also the parent of the shooter.
Yep.
That mother doesn't have her child either.
Right.
And in all three of those cases that I talked about with my baby Jory, and then in Buffalo, and then in this, all three of those mothers of those shooters are also really hurting.
Yes.
And they are our family members. I mean, our brother shot our brothers and sisters in Texas. Because
Helen actually just put a comment up here similar to what you're talking about. Most of these kids or the shooters have lost hope. As a society today, we need to rebuild our connections. Then the lost fall into the hate blame, and we are paying a high price for this disconnection. Yeah. Thank you.
That's
Helen.
One of the things that I had never heard about or thought about before the first time I ever attended a 2-day orientation in nonviolence. That was in April of 2018. And one of the things that gripped me immediately was this understanding of interconnectedness, this debunking the myth of independence.
Right.
And so often here in the United States, we talk about, I did it on my own. I don't need any help. We're entrepreneurs. We're solopreneurs. I did it all by myself. No, none of us did it by ourselves. And yes, Helen, they are disconnected. But they're finding a connection somehow, because that shooter did not, even though they say lone gunman, but the shooter didn't walk into that school by himself. I mean, he had to learn something and learn more things about it and learn more things about it and learn more things about it. I mean, he didn't just, wake up today and go do that, and nobody does. And so we're all the places that he was connected to somebody, something, some writing, some website, some group of people, something,
right.
And so understanding that, that interconnectedness is so vital.
It is very vital. I love what Betsy Clark is here. Hi, Betsy. We are just walking each other home.
Yes.
It's a powerful statement and very true.
Because Betsy just popped in, I just want to say, Betsy gave me one of the greatest compliments of my life. And she said, Elizabeth, you are just love with skin on.
Oh.
And Betsy, I'm wearing this because
I'm just going to say, let's talk about your jacket because of the whole be love thing, but actually what you just said about Betsy.
Yeah. So I have a word of the year, and every year, a different word of the year. I was just recently at a 3-day mastermind with my business coach, who's Julie Miller Davis. And in so doing, and Betsy was a part of that. So the two of them together, that's amazing to have a word of the year. But what is the banner over your life? And for me, my banner is agape. Agape love, unconditional love. Agape says, I see the divinity in you. It's not because of how you love me or what you do for me, or just because you are a human on this planet. I love you, and I see you, and I see your worth and dignity.
Well, as you said when we were talking about your personal brand, Dr. Roz, is love, agape.
Agape.
And you
It
need to
is.
get a jacket made with the word agape.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I just had my stylist made this. Her name is Fly Bobo. Y'all can reach out to her, Jean Marie brand. And I just had 4 more made, and all of them have some sort of theme of love. It's like little birds that say I love you, or te amo, or a hand with a heart. And one of them is the beloved community. And it looks like swirls. It looks like pink swirls, but it's really people. If you zoom in, it's people holding hands, and it's all different skin tones and all different hairstyles. And like one of them is wearing the Afro puffs, and everybody's holding hands. And then Fly went in and wrote in there beloved community, because that's what we want to create. You're exactly right, Betsy. We look for hearts every day. Here's
as do I. I didn't know that you two did that. I actually look for them whenever I hike in the woods. Bill and I hike. Bill, and just a quick little heart story. Bill and I went on a honeymoon in Acadia National Park when we got married a couple of years ago, and we did 5 days of hikes. And at the end of the first day of the hike, there was a heart-shaped rock embedded in like the ground as we ended the hike. So for all the rest of the hikes, I would look, and I would always find one, but it was always at the end of the hike.
Wow.
And on our 5th day, we hiked on a trail to take us to a beach on the ocean, like and it was very rural area, not a touristy type spot. There was nobody on the beach. And I said to my husband, I said, I'm not finding any hearts. So I literally took a stick and I drew a heart in the sand on the beach, and I took the picture. And as we walked back on the same trail, when we got to the end where our bikes were, I actually found another heart.
Beautiful.
So I always look for hearts too.
Yeah. I mean, we often find what we're looking for, right?
Yeah,
and so if you as Helen was talking about, if you want connection, if this man was feeling disconnected and looking for connection, then we can find that, even if it's not healthy, even if it's not fulfilling. But when we're looking for hearts, when we're seeing the best in others, when we're seeing the divinity in others, when we're seeing that we're all interconnected, when we are love-centered in our thinking and speaking, are engaging with one another, it alters not only our perspective, but the people around us. And so that's why my vision, and it's not mine, it's Coretta Scott King's, it's Dr. Bernice King. She's our CEO, their youngest daughter, 7.8 billion nonviolent practitioners.
Yeah.
Because I can see that. Because that doesn't mean that there's no conflict. It just means that we don't resolve our conflicts through violence.
Right. So what would you say to the people who, obviously I can't speak for the people who are on the ground in Texas, but what would you say to the parents who have young children who are afraid to go to school and have seen this being talked about on TV or heard about it on the news if they're listening to the radio? You know, one of the things we've learned over the years, and I think it was Mr. Rogers that said it, is look for the helpers. You know, and I tried to kind of go there last night, but it was too soon because I'm still reeling, just because I just can't believe it. But when does the nonviolent piece come into that? Like for the parents or family members or loved ones who want to help their kids.
Yeah. Again, there's not like this quick, easy.
No, I know that.
I have friends who have said, just in trepidation, I put my kids on the bus this morning and I pray they come home. I've got another friend that said, there's 2 more days left of school and we're done.
Yeah.
And wherever you are as a family, that's where you need to be. Right. So, so I don't have an answer to your. Okay.
Nope. That's fine. When you hear that little thing though, about looking for the helpers, you know, how do you look at that as well?
You know, most of the time that makes me smile. Most of the time, that's absolutely true.
Yeah. More so in like a natural disaster or a fire, you know what I mean? Yeah. So this is a hard one.
Well, even even in man-made tragedies,
Yep.
cause tragedies, the helpers are most of the time exactly where you need to be.
Yep.
But the world is full of, we have reports of people who were supposed to be the helpers,
Mm-hmm.
who failed their jobs miserably.
Mm-hmm.
If you're in a faith tradition, if you're in a faith tradition, the leader of that synagogue, temple, church, whatever other groups, that leader should be somebody you can count on.
Yeah, right.
And that's not always the case.
Not
And
always
so again, most of the time that's exactly right. And most of the time that's a source of hope. But not always.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Let's talk about nonviolence from the standpoint of some of our sort of more societal norms, if you will, right, wrong, or indifferent. I'm not making a judgment. But one of the things, you read sometimes with these shooters, and I don't know if that's the case with this one because they're still doing an investigation, but, we've got all these various things out in our world. We've got these incredible, like, realistic video games that a lot of young people watch and play, and most of them know that it's just a game, but there's those that do not. There's bullying on social media. There's bullying in real life. How does that come in? How does nonviolent communication or nonviolence come in to scenarios like that where we want to try to deal with them?
Yeah. Again, it's understanding that interconnectedness. It's understanding that violence is a descending spiral, as Martin Luther King would say.
A descending spiral?
A descending spiral.
Okay.
So if you're looking at violence and then you're seeing violence around you and there's nothing combating that or contradicting that or counteracting that, again, I have family members that play those games, and and this conversation is Kate and Elizabeth. I mean, Elizabeth is not going to say to a parent, never let your child blah 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 blah.
Right.
But if that's what is being inundated, then how are you counteracting that?
Right.
One of the things, Dr. Bernice King and Dr. Kimberly Johnson just released this book in January. It Starts With Me. And this little girl, her name is Amora, which Amora means love. And this little girl honestly looks so much like Dr. Bernice King as a little girl. And Dr. Bernice's nickname as she was growing up was Bunny. And so there's a bunny.
Oh, that's cute.
And it's an elementary school book all about it is Be Love. It starts with me, and it talks about how you interact with other students, and like we have groups and organizations who have said, how can I come alongside the Be Love Pledge or whatever, and there are groups that are raising money to put this book in their local elementary school, or to to make it. Like I heard of one group who was, giving out X amount of copies to the next people whose babies were born. I've given it as baby gifts. So, it's this whole mindset of pervasiveness, and how do you, so rather than, perhaps an answer to your question, Kate, is rather than focusing on let's eradicate a video game, then instead of saying, let's take away something, then what are we going to replace it with? Or what's going to be most compelling? If, like Helen's question, if that young man was so disconnected,
right?
What if what was most compelling was not to take away the gun, but would be to come around him with 100 people from his area or his family to say, I love you and I see you. You have worth and you have a purpose. You have a destiny, and you're on this planet for a reason. And let's call you to that highest place of where you're meant to be. Okay.
Is that hard to find though sometimes? Is that hard to sense if they're quiet, or you think there's probably a lot of various things that show up that raise a red flag, so to speak? Yes.
Is your question, is it hard to see who's going to,
like when you're talking about, maybe I misunderstood, when you're talking about the young man that that murdered these kids.
Yes.
That you're saying that having these people surround him
Yes.
with
What would that have looked
like
like?
before that happened.
Yes.
And but so that's what I'm saying. Is it hard to sense that though, that they're going down a path, or that they've bought these, weapons or whatever? I'm just trying to understand what you mean by how could they be coming together?
Well, and I don't mean like 2 days ago.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
like since that child was born
Oh,
18
okay. I
years
see
ago.
what you're saying. Okay.
What would it look like if every child that comes on this planet is surrounded and interconnected with this whole village of people that love them, that call them to their higher selves, that sees all the beauty that's in them, all the gifts? Because yes, this young man yesterday, yes, he had gifts.
Yep.
And he had talents, and he had a purpose on this planet.
Mm-hmm.
And me personally,
right.
and with my faith tradition, I don't believe that his main purpose was to go out that way,
mm-hmm.
and to take that many people with him.
Right.
So
I did kind of misunderstand your comment. Yeah. Apologies. I was thinking like, but if you do see some signs, whatever those might be, what is a family member or somebody to do?
Well, again, I think it comes down to it not being just the one family member,
yeah,
it not being just the one person,
right.
It not being, it's, I mean, I don't mean to keep talking about interconnectedness and being.
I hear you on that. I mean, I think that is the crux. Yeah.
Yes. To understand, because here's the thing, Kate, is that if we believe in interconnect, it's why I have all these babies that call me mama long before I knew anything about nonviolence, because I understood in my heart that people need people. I see people, and like what you were saying, can you see things in him? And I thought you meant like positive traits, and I'm like, yes, I can see positive traits in anybody. I mean, every single one of us has, an amazing amount of talent and beauty and skill that the world needs.
Yes.
The world needs.
Mm-hmm.
And so finding out where that is, helping people find their purpose, that part's very easy for me to do.
Right. Yeah. Right. So that book that you showed us, is that something that you can get online if people are interested? Mm-hmm. So would they get it on the Be Love? Would it be on? I think
it's probably at the King Center bookstore.
Okay, so that would be here at the kingcenterinstitute.org.
This that actually is the digital platform. So I was the project manager for that. So the kingcenter.org, and then you would just click on shop.
Okay, great. Okay.
Yeah.
I don't have time to make the banner right now, everybody.
And I didn't know we were going to talk about this, so yeah.
Oh no, well, I mean, we didn't know what we were going to end up talking about.
Yeah.
So if anybody has any comments they'd like to make or questions for Dr. Roz on this, please share them in the comments. We do have a lot of people on. Betsy was on. She said, "Mwah, I have to go to a call." So what else? Let's maybe move away from the Texas thing, and let's just talk about nonviolence and what you do.
Okay. So
we've shared about this from the standpoint of what just happened in our world.
Mm-hmm.
When you go into does an organization call the King Center and say, we would like somebody to come into our company or organization to do fill in the blank?
Absolutely. Okay. And not only do they call the King Center or email or fill out that form online, but I'm the person that they would talk to. Okay. So that is one of my roles is the content learning project manager. And so so when folks say, hey, I want training, and we offer 3 different trainings, you can see all this online. And we talk through. So like we have one school, one university that we're going to be working with this fall. And they've said, given the culture of their school community, they want us to do Be Love fall and spring of next year, and then come back the following year to do understanding and applying nonviolence. Okay. We have another school who says, you know what, I think given the culture, we need the understanding and applying nonviolence, and then possibly the next year do Be Love. And so it's not one or the, it's just all custom custom
Okay.
designed. So we work with organizations, nonprofit organizations, folks that do like professional, like if you're in like the National Association of Speakers or something,
Right.
and they may have a pre-conference that says, "Will you come talk to us about nonviolence?" And so, so we were on deck to do that this summer. So just lots of different places that folks can get private training, but then also the King Center offers pretty much monthly, what we call public-facing training. So you can just go online and sign up.
Oh, okay. So you can just do that like from your home. You don't have to be part of a company or something.
Exactly.
So are you seeing, for lack of a better word, are you seeing an uptick in more requests that organizations, companies, universities, organizations, are you seeing them paying attention to this more and proactively saying we need, not instead of being reactive, like something bad happens, we need to do this? Are they being proactive because of just what's going on in our country on many, many different levels? Are you seeing more requests, which, is a good thing? But are you seeing a shift?
The short answer and the loudest answer, yes.
Yes.
I could be wrong about this. I think though I'm the first person that has, well, I'm not the first person assigned at the King Center this duty of, talking to corporations, but I think I'm the first contractor for which that's like a large part of my job because of this uptick. I also, for me personally, I can sense being one individual and having limited capacity. So much of what I do with Debt Free Degree is moving asynchronously, because that's an important aspect of my message and my purpose here on this planet. But the nonviolence piece in teaching for the King Center, working for the King Center, that role, I believe, is only going to get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger because of the need. And I spent, most of my career in and around higher education, and most of that, particularly specifically with students with disabilities.
Okay.
So it used to be that corporations or organizations would have DEI experts, which is diversity, equity, or equality. I think now it's equity and inclusion expert. But now it's IDEA, which is inclusion, diversity, equity, and accessibility.
Oh, okay.
So now we're looking at also bringing students with disabilities in, which is also, my master's is in rehabilitation counseling. So working with students with disabilities, people with disabilities. So there's this mindset. And again, when you think about it, Kate, like let's say that you are a corporation and you've got 10,000 employees and you want to pay for 200 employees to go through the Be Love training.
Okay.
Well, when those 200 hear it and commit to it, and then they're using Be Love with the people reporting to them and the people they're reporting to, and then they're going home and using it with their family and then with their kids. And then their kids are like, oh, I've been reading this book. And what would it mean if I went to school and instead of making fun of her because her pants are dirty, then loving on her? And so it just has this ripple effect.
I was just going to say it's the ripple effect, which is exactly what you want.
Exactly. Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
So your master's is in
rehabilitation counseling.
And what's your PhD in?
Educational policy studies.
Okay. Yeah. So how did you get involved with the King Center? How did you personally get, I know it's a contract role, I believe.
It is. Yes. But that started in June.
Okay.
My first interaction with the King Center. Well, let me go back just a little bit. I graduated high school in 1988 in Athens, Georgia. Go Glads. And my high school was 50% Black. And explicitly and implicitly, I was told, little white girl, that you're graduating into a post-racial society. There's no more segregation. There's no more racism. We're all good.
Right.
And it was not until I read Cornel West, Race Matters, as a part of my PhD program, that it really started me, what I call my unlearning and relearning. So Race Matters, that was the pivotal book that I said, oh my goodness, these messages that I received, they're not entirely true. They're not at all true as far as there's no racism. And so I began a journey. And even though I lived 45 minutes north of the Martin Luther King Center in Atlanta, Georgia, I didn't know it existed.
Oh, wow.
So when I started that journey, I started following them on Twitter, and they were offering a 2-day orientation to Dr. King's philosophy of nonviolence. And I thought, oh, I want to know more about that. That was in April of 2018. And the first time, I mean, I had heard I Have a Dream speech. Yeah. I don't even know that I'd ever heard the whole thing. Right. But of course, what I took from it was sort of a colorblind, don't look at my color, blah, 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 which is also an incorrect interpretation of Dr. King's words. But the first time I ever read anything that he had written was a part of that 2-day. We were given some homework to do. Right. And I remember sitting there in April of 2018, and I have a business mentor that says our identity is where we put the dent in the universe. And my
I love that. I've never heard that.
Yes. My dent in April of 2018 was to teach nonviolence around the world. Okay. And I didn't know how that was going to happen. I didn't know what that was going to look like. I just knew this was it, because the 6 principles undergird everything that we do. And then there are 6 steps to addressing conflict. But what does it look like if you're love-centered everywhere? Not just with the people that you're related to or the people that you already love, but what does it look like to be love-centered everywhere? And so that was April of 2018. In August of 2018, I got an email. And again, we get emails from important people all the time. And, there's all these plug and play things. You can take a list and, it looks like it's personalized. And, Dr. Bernice King is sending you an email. Okay. And I open it up and it says, Dear Elizabeth. And I'm thinking, as if Dr. Bernice King typed that email to me. But it says, I'm being asked to teach my father's methodology and philosophy around the world. I'm assembling a training team. Are you interested in being a part? And I was like, who says no to Dr. Bernice King? Yes, ma'am. Whatever. Yeah. And you know what? I have said yes to her every single time she's asked. Every single time she's asked. So in August of 2018, I don't know if she's asked 100 people, 1,000 people. I mean, I have no idea how many people she's asked. Right. And there were 12 of us on that training team. And I'm the only one who is not African American. I am also the only one who had 0 relationship with her prior to us starting. Wow. So every single other person on that team had years to decades to being related to her. So one of my teammates, I didn't realize that they were related. And so, I said to her, my little white Southern girl way, so how long have you been a part of the King Center? And she said, my grandfather is AD, which is Martin Luther King Jr.'s brother, who was found dead in his pool, killed, drowned in his pool. And I say it with quotes like this because he was an avid swimmer and no water was found in his lungs.
Oh, geez.
And so I was like, oh, and she says, so how long have you been involved with the King Center? And I was like, since April. Of course, and so it is something that I said, some question that I asked, some way that I put together information in April that put me on the radar of Dr. Bernice King for her to ask me. And it has absolutely changed the trajectory of my life. But I believe that it, in so doing, will change the trajectory of, I hope billions of other people. Right. I mean, that's what I'm working toward.
So did you have to go through any kind of a lengthy vetting process, or did she?
It was I don't know what her vetting process was before she asked me. But knowing her as I do, it was an extensive vetting process. Yeah, extensive. But it wasn't like I applied. I mean, there was no application. I was asked. And so then
that's really extraordinary, Dr. Roz. I mean, you were invited, you were asked. Yes. I mean, and that just gives me goosebumps all over again.
It does to me. It absolutely does to me. Yeah. If you go back and look at Trisha Turpinoff did photos of me at the King Center. And I have two favorite photos of Dr. King, and one of them is this one here where he's standing over his desk and the picture of Gandhi is on the wall. But the other one is he and Mrs. King as they're going to vote. And that is on a big picture outside the King Center. And Trisha took my picture standing beside that picture, and I have tears in my eyes.
I think I know the picture. I think I've seen it.
Yeah.
I think I've seen that picture. I don't know if is it on your Patreon site?
I think so.
Yeah, I think that's where I saw it. Yeah.
Yeah. So yes, I hold it very deeply that I was asked that whatever I said in April put me on her radar. So yeah. So there are 15 of us on the planet. I mean, there's our training team, and one of us did not yet finish. I hope that she will. So 11 of the original 12 finished. We have 3 senior leadership trainers, and then Dr. Bernice King. And so there's 15 trainers from the King Center, and hopefully we'll have another cohort soon. But this platform is a way to get it across the world. We also are translating it into 6
other
languages.
Oh, that's
amazing. So those will be out soon. And here's another. This is another one of those interconnected stories. In January was when we released this platform. In January, I call him Mr. My husband's first cousin is Nick Burns, and Nick became the United States ambassador to China. And one of the languages that we're translating this into is Mandarin. And so what will it look like if we can work with Nick? I mean, who knew we were going to launch this and Mike's first cousin would become U.S. ambassador to China in the same month?
Wow.
That's where I know it's not about me. Exactly. It's not about what it's about what the world is saying that we need right now.
Yep. The universe is giving you a message very clearly. Yes.
Yeah.
So this would be a good time to segue into what your other distribution method of nonviolence, which is your debt-free degree program.
Yeah.
So let's spend a few minutes talking about that, because I also want to put it in the context of nonviolence. Excellent. So first, just tell me about your debt-free degree, and I'll also put up the link to your website. So describe what it is in the Cliff Notes version. Great. And how you came about to do that.
Great. So my tagline is I have 3 degrees, including my PhD, and I only took $1,000 in loans. I was raised, I was very blessed by 2 really smart parents, and they just instilled in me that you don't go into debt for education. And in my undergrad, I worked 44 hours a week. I worked 20 hours a week in the psychology department, and I did 2 12-hour shifts on the weekends. I had the Pell Grant, and then I had family money that, would kind of fill in the gaps. And so one summer quarter, that's how old I am, Pell Grant didn't cover it, and I didn't have the money. And so they said, oh, take the loan and figure out how you'll pay it off later. So that's where I took $1,000 right there, is that summer quarter. It was not until 2005 when I became disability services director for an institution, where I started hearing all these students talking about what at that time was, I thought, exorbitant amounts of debt of, $10,000, $20,000, $30,000. Some of them were doing it, to pay for school. Some of them were using it as, free money to live off of, to party off of, to, do all the fun things that college students like to do. And that was funding that lifestyle.
Right.
And I said, but you're going to have to pay that back. Oh, I'll figure it out later. And so that became just this through line for me. Today, 38% of everyone who owes student loan debt owes 6 figures. 6 figures, over $100,000. I talked with to a financial planner actually last week, and they helped a couple reduce their over $500,000 combined student loan debt. This is student loan debt.
Wow.
That's my expertise. So I'm not talking about other kinds of debt.
Right.
And so I know, because there's $30 billion in scholarships and grants out there, plus my tips, tricks, and tools, that you can graduate with any bachelor's degree, any master's degree, any PhD, completely debt free. But here's the thing, Kate, you have to have debt free degree as your end in mind.
Okay.
So like, I'll have people call me and they're frustrated because they're like, I want to go to this hoop-to-do school and get this very niche degree. And so you say you can do any degree. So tell me how to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's putting all those things in play in the priority level.
Right.
So for me, if you say I want a PhD debt free, I can show you that. If you,
Okay.
whatever.
Okay.
Even,
or a bachelor's degree, right?
Even what?
Or a bachelor's degree.
Oh, well, the bachelor's, I mean, that's where probably right now, probably over 90% of the students and families that I have on my Patreon are for the bachelor's degree.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
How do people find you to do this, to talk to you about this? Because I would imagine if you're putting this information out online, you're not necessarily reaching the teenagers, you're probably reaching the parents.
Right. Exactly. So one thing is, I have this friend, and she is just the most amazing. She's an amazing sister. She's an amazing friend, but she also is considered to be one of the top LinkedIn experts in the country. Mm-hmm. And I have hired her. Her name is Kate Payne. And so that's one way I'm going to get my message out.
Who is that?
That's one way I'm going to get my message out, I hope, is no, not I hope, because I will. Yeah.
Well, so people can connect with you on LinkedIn.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. And
okay.
on my Patreon page, and I'm sure you've
that was very kind of you, Dr. Roz. Thank you.
I mean, it's the truth, because the thing about nonviolence, and this is where I get resistance. So what sometimes people will say is, in terms of nonviolence, in terms of debt-free degree, it's like I'm saying something that's so vastly different from what 99% of the people in their circles are saying. And so I have to say it more often and more frequently.
Right.
Perhaps not more loudly, but more lovingly.
Yes.
Because there's something, and I don't even know if this is a term. I came up with this term, but maybe it's somebody else's. And if so, I attribute it to them, not to me. But I talk about the human algorithm. Mm-hmm. And so we all have social media algorithms. We understand that what we engage with is what we get more of. Mm-hmm. Well, if you are 18 years old, 17 years old, and your frontal lobe is not fully developed, yep. and your parents are still paying off their student loan debt, mm-hmm. and every teacher that you've had in K-12 is carrying some form of student loan debt, and most of the people that you know who are thriving adults have student loan debt, then guess what? You think student loan debt is the only way to become an adult.
Right.
So you hear my message and you go, and then when I talk about it, because it's very simple, mm-hmm. but it's not easy. There's a distinction.
Right.
And so because it's simple, but not easy, I'll just worry how to do that later. Well, guess what? You're going to put the work in one way or the other.
Right.
So you either put in the work ahead of time to graduate debt free, or you're going to put on the work on the back end, trying to work so hard to pay that off.
Okay. I just wanted to throw this up here. Vivian Villers said, I love being with you, Dr. Roz, at the King Center last October when you had that photo session with Trisha Turpinoff. And for all of you who are watching, who don't know, Trisha Turpinoff is an amazing photographer. She hails from Colorado Springs, but she travels all over the place. So you don't have to go to Colorado Springs. But she says, I want to go back and visit the King Center with you again when it is open.
Yes, Vivian, I would love that. I would absolutely love it. And yes, Viv, we had such a special day.
And Kathy asks, Dr. Roz, is college even necessary for many kids today? What a great question.
Okay, yes. I know we haven't had tons of reason for a pom-pom, but we need a pom-pom on that. Kathy, yes. Okay, thank you. So, all of my programs.
I should have brought my pom-pom. I have one of those too.
All of my programs have the acronym GRIT, and debt-free degree. The R is return on investment. And I just talked to a lady, a girl. Well, she's 23, so a lady about a month ago, and her brother has a PhD in English. He teaches he's he's not adjunct. I mean, he's employed by their local state college, and he still lives at home with their parents because of the debt and because he's unable to go get a job. He makes like 45 a year.
Right.
Well, the average electrician, the average welder, they're not making 45 a year. They're making six figures a year.
They are.
So that's an excellent question. So Kathy, I would say that I believe 99% of the people need some type of education post high school. But I also would say I don't think it has to be a 4-year degree.
Right.
In Georgia and in many other states, you can graduate high school and with a technical degree at the same time. So I don't mean that it has to be after you're 18. Right. It just is something post 12th grade. I think most people will need that.
I have two sons. My oldest is 23 and my youngest will be 20 on Monday. And both of them went to, and so I live in Vermont. So here in Vermont, we have 5 technical centers / high schools throughout the state. Each one.
Okay. So it's combined.
Yeah. So it's combined. So like in 9th grade, they went to traditional high school in 9th grade. And then in 9th grade, they got exposed to this technical center that they could go to. And they had to, if they wanted to go for 10th grade, they had to apply. They had to be vetted. Not everybody could get in. And they both got in. And my oldest son started out with HVAC, switched to electrical, and then ended up in forestry and land management because his father owns an 85-acre choose and cut Christmas tree here in Vermont, and they have a maple sugaring business. Wow. And so he switched, but he graduated, did not go to college. He started his own business. He's in his 3rd year. He has a property maintenance business. And my son actually works for him as an employee. And my son graduated with the forestry and land management program, sort of, certificate, if you want to call it that. But the level of education they actually got trained on how to do job interviews. They got trained on how to do resumes. They were encouraged to go to college if they wanted to, but they were totally set up to be able to leave, to graduate 12th grade and be able to be an active member of society.
Yes.
And so to Kathy's point, not everybody does. And you know what?
Wait, Kate, that needs both pom-poms.
Okay. Well, I'll just cheers to that.
Yes, exactly.
But yes. What's interesting about the trades is that there's so few people who want to be doing them now. Like here in Vermont, the average age of a plumber or an electrician is 68. Wow. And they can't find many people who want to come up from behind them to do that. But they're making a minimum of $80,000 a year.
Yeah. Exactly.
Vivian
and
has
guess what? I really want to live in a society that values plumbing.
Exactly. Me too. And electricity.
This little Southern peach, honey, I need some air conditioning. So I'm sorry he's not in HVAC, but I'm going to need some AC.
Well, the best thing is he still knows what he learned. So, and his father was a plumber from the standpoint of new construction.
Yeah.
And so, having people know a trade is extremely important. So Vivian says many years ago,
you, Kate, but I don't. I mean, if you say that's their business, and I don't want to answer that. Did they earn a debt-free degree?
My kids? Yeah. Well, they didn't go to college.
Right, but did they have to pay tuition at this technical college?
No. It was all part of the regular school.
So they earned a debt-free degree.
Oh, yeah. I see what you're saying. Yes.
Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you've got somebody with a PhD, somebody who has put in 12 years probably post high school, making 45 a year with debt, living at home with their parents, doing what they love to do, teaching English. That's fabulous. And then you've got somebody else who's 23 who graduated debt-free. And what do those trajectories look like?
Right.
That is a form of nonviolence.
It is. And it also needs to be like my kids who went to a technical school back in my day, it was called Voc Tech or vocational tech. Yep. And that was a stigma.
Yes.
And I even went through that a little bit when my kids were in tech school, that they were like, oh, it was almost like that just isn't as important or it doesn't matter. And they dealt with that from friends from their previous school too. And it was a form of like you're less than.
Yes.
And I worked on saying, you know what you guys are doing? You guys have rolled up your sleeves.
That's
You
right.
get your hands dirty, boots on the ground.
That's
You're
right.
getting it done. And our community and our culture needs that.
Yes.
So
Yes.
good on
And
you.
that's also the form of the human algorithm that I was
Yes.
talking about.
Yeah.
Because and one of the things that Georgia did probably probably 20 years ago, maybe even longer than that, is we used to call them VOTEC school, and now they are technical colleges.
Oh, right.
So it's
Exactly.
North Georgia Technical College,
Right.
which means semantics wise, students are graduating from college.
Yes.
And that helped in Georgia, I believe,
Yep.
just that arc.
Yep.
But yes. And again, it goes back to, I need HVAC. I value, but I think we're about to reach that tipping point where that stigma is going to go away.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So Vivian just put up an interesting little comment. Many years ago, I used to advise families on getting help to pay for college. One of the things I would tell families is to look for smaller colleges that have larger non-loan aid packages.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent. Yes.
So we are actually at the bottom of the hour, but there's if we've got a couple more minutes. I know there's people still listening and there's people still here. So I'm okay with staying on a couple more minutes if you can.
I have, yes.
Okay. I can talk to you for forever.
I feel the same way.
So the other thing that's interesting too, just back to my kids going to the technical school, which was part of high school. So they graduated with what they call an employability card. And so they also, during their junior year, they could do what was called a co-op, and they could go work for a local HVAC company, or they could go work for a logging company or whatever. And so they would actually get almost like an internship, and all of their learning, because they were learners that learn better by doing than by like sitting in a classroom. I mean, they graduated with some incredible skills. And, my son's in the third year. He's 23. He's in the third year of his property maintenance business, and he's extremely successful.
Yes.
And he's happy, and he's going to be getting married, and they bought land to build a house. And
wow.
so it doesn't mean that there haven't been struggles. There certainly have been. But, he's actually in some ways, and I don't mean this, he's almost like, I don't want to say ahead of his peers who went to college. He's just in a different trajectory. But it's still a successful one, even though he didn't graduate from a 4-year school.
Exactly. Right. And if ultimately we would like for our kids to be independent, financially independent, then he checked that box. If ultimately your preference would be that they live on their own and not with you.
Right.
And for many of us, that's kind of our goal.
Right.
Then they've checked that box. And it's that whole understanding of, we would like you to be a contributing member of society, a productive member of society, where you're doing what you love, you're living where you want to live. And like you said, he's getting married. Congratulations. Absolutely. Congratulations. I talked to a lady about a month ago. When she graduated with her bachelor's and master's, she had $120,000 in debt. Because of unsubsidized loans. It's now over $250,000. It's like $253,000 in debt. And she said she was dating this guy and things were going really, really well. And he broke up with her when he found out how much debt she owed.
Wow.
It impacts every facet.
Right, exactly. So to wrap this up, or as my friend Laura Gisborne says, let's put a caboose on this train.
Oh, a caboose. Okay. Any of y'all, this is us fans. That was a really good.
They graduated debt-free, and you call that nonviolence. How do you define it that way? Why is it? I know what the answer, but I want to hear it in your words.
So it is a form of nonviolence, because when you think about nonviolence, that it is a love-centered way. And so what is love-centered? Love-centered is using what you have to be able to go do what it is that you want to do. And so why not put that work in on the front end? You can tie it back to that young man that we were talking about. We're going to put the work in one way or the other because this man was so disconnected from society. So we either put the work in on the front end and create something beautiful, or we're going to have to put in the work on the back end.
Right.
So understanding that nonviolence is a freeing way, a life of of freedom and expectations that you can walk out and do what it is that you want to do to create the beloved community. And so the beginning with the end in mind, creating the beloved community. I'm not saying that in the beloved community we won't have debt.
Of course.
I'm not saying that we won't have student loan debt.
Right.
But if you want to graduate debt free, it's entirely possible. You just have to put the work in on the front.
Right. Wow, this has been just so fascinating on so many different levels, and so many people were either on LinkedIn or on Facebook watching us, because we were streaming to my Facebook personal page, my Facebook business page, and my LinkedIn Live on my personal profile.
Great.
And Kathy and Vivian just loved it and thanked us both. Good. And there will be a replay. So for those of you watching, you're watching the replay right now. People, if you have questions, you can put them in the comments on either Facebook or LinkedIn and tag me or tag Dr. Roz.
Yes.
And we will answer your questions in the comment sections too. So, and then this will also be archived on my website at standingoutonline.com. And I also have a Standing Out Online company page, which has a Coffee with Kate page.
Yay!
So we house all those there. So anyway, you can find.
Does that mean, Kate, I can pull this link and put it in my Patreon community so they can watch it? Okay, great.
So what I would suggest, Dr. Roz, is once the replay does, it won't form until we get off the call.
Okay.
Then I will pull it into my YouTube channel, and what I'll do is I'll send you the YouTube link.
Excellent. Perfect.
Which is just cleaner.
Yeah. Excellent.
Yeah, because sometimes all the link, because then it's going to take them to this, and then there's going to be the comments, and it can be a little cumbersome. So I'll just give you the link for the show for that purpose. Great. And thank you for that. Great. So Dr. Roz, you are the best. I'm so looking forward to our continued work together.
Yes.
And I've learned so much from you about nonviolent communication. You said something earlier about being colorblind, and I grew up thinking that was what that was a good thing to teach.
Yes.
Is like, I don't see that, but I've also learned now with all of what we've been learning that that's not the best way to approach it anymore. Right.
Right.
And of course my intention was the right place, but we also didn't have the tools that we have now. We didn't have the research and the information that we have now. So I remain open to all of this because I think this is always evolving.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
unlearning and relearning.
Yeah. And thank you for talking about the tough subject today.
Yeah. Thank you for having me. Just what a pleasure. And this hour flew by. So
I did.
Listen, I'm going to have with you is a great day indeed.
I'm going to end the broadcast, but I'd like you to stay in the green room.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.
We'll be back next month with another Coffee with Kate. And then I will be taking a sabbatical from Coffee with Kate for July and August. But we always have really great, interesting guests to have coffee together. So thank you for tuning in.
Thanks, everybody.